Welcome back, everyone, to For the Good. This is episode... Guys, this is the intro. Don't listen to her. She's losing her mind.
Ready?
No,
Tell me when
she's
to do
losing her mind. This is what, episode 7 now?
No,
or episode 8. Episode 8. And as you can see, we both are struggling with depression right now. We both are actually coping, and this is what it looks like, guys.
Okay, are you actually ready?
This is the intro. This is the intro.
No,
I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it, and this pill
No,
is warm.
actually, please, no. No.
Today
it's
we're
the
gonna
heater.
be getting into.
You're pretty selfish because you put the heat on yourself.
Today we're
No,
gonna be
actually,
getting
we're redoing
into.
it. We're redoing it.
Why am I wearing
We are
slippers
redoing
without
it.
socks on?
Ew.
We're not. We can't.
We are.
Because
Okay,
that
are we
intro was
ready?
priceless. No.
1.
She's like fixing her hair like this. Are we ready? It's okay, Stevie.
Are we ready?
Today we're going to be
No.
talking about
No.
Thanksgiving.
No. We're
Because
redoing it.
this is the season to be thankful and grateful.
No.
As much as she will
I'm
fight
going
me
to
on this,
restart it.
this was Stevie. Don't restart it. Don't restart. I'll have him clip it in. It doesn't matter. I'll have him clip it in. We're rolling. We're going. This is what we're doing.
No, okay. Can we just redo it? We can put
No.
it at the end. He always puts it at the end.
This is the intro. This is the intro. We don't even have anything to talk
I'll
about.
leave right
We
now.
don't have anything to talk
I'll
about.
leave.
We don't even have
Yes,
anything
we
to talk
do.
about.
We do.
So this is filling up a great
No.
amount of time.
We're redoing it.
So
Okay, are you ready to redo it?
So this this
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
and today, so we're gonna be talking about thankfulness today, and Thanksgiving, because obviously that is the season that we're in. And so with that said, guys, we have a fun episode today that's probably gonna get a little heavy. Obviously, as you saw in the beginning, we were joking and laughing a lot to intro this. So
We're redoing
no,
it again.
no.
Yes, we
So
already
with
got
that
it
said,
at the beginning.
in fact, we're not even cutting anything. We're keeping all of this in.
I'm done.
We're keeping all of this
Goodbye.
in. She's gonna walk away. She's gonna walk away, but I'm gonna keep going with it. So with that said, Stevie, please come sit back down. We're going to be diving into Thanksgiving because that is the season that we're in. Thanksgiving is only like, what? Is it November 23rd?
I'm not telling you.
Is it the 22nd? Can you please stop because it's going to make a lot to clean up.
Let me see it. We're redoing.
No, because I'm going to tell him to clip it in regardless.
No, we're not. That's not being. It can go at the end like 3 times.
No, that'll be our intro.
No, it won't.
I'm not re-introing it.
We are.
Please don't turn it off.
We're not doing that at the beginning. Can you please redo the intro? Vinny,
That was a great intro.
it was not.
What did I even say that made you laugh?
I was just started cackling.
Okay, fine.
Then you wouldn't
Fine, he'll just put a cut, but don't restart it.
Yes, restart it.
No, don't restart it because we're gonna put a cut in.
Start the thing. Let me. I was gonna put those back.
It's
for
too
you to
late.
on.
Clap. Go ahead.
Oh man. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Get all the giggles out.
I'm not laughing.
Put the squishy back on. No, put the squishy.
Hello.
He's gonna get mad. Don't play with it. He put it to where it's supposed to
Go.
be. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to For the Good. This is episode 8. Today we're going to be talking about Thanksgiving, and what we should do with that as Christians. Should it be something that we celebrate? Is it even really something to celebrate, or is it more of a thing that we should just be doing as Christians? And so with that said, we're excited to get into this episode. We're excited to share a little bit of a life update with where we're at. And as you guys saw, we had a little bit of giggles in the intro there, and we were laughing a little bit. So in the midst of hard times, in the midst of not the most ideal and pleasant seasons, you can still, if you're in the right mindset and perspective, and obviously have the right person, you can still find a lot of fun things to laugh about and a lot of good things to do to get through those seasons. So with that said, Stevie, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
She's doing all right. I am doing all right also. Yeah, I guess we can be 100% transparent and just say that nothing between me and her, but just in our our extracurricular lives, that's not the right word. Those are going well. It's the other one, the responsibility, the serious side of things, the work side of things.
Yeah.
We are just kind of, and a lot of me too, I'm just kind of getting like it's not letting up is kind of the best way that I could put it. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like you go through a trial and there's a period where you're in the valley, and then usually there's a process of climbing up the mountain, and then there's usually a process when you're on the peak, and then in a given amount of time there's another trial again. But it's been every time I thought I was in a valley, I was like, oh, that wasn't the valley. And every time that I thought I might be climbing up the mountain, it was, oh, we're starting over again. Like I trip and I fall back down, and I think I'm climbing, I'm doing my best, and then I trip and I fall back down. And the reason we kind of wanted to talk about this and bring it up was because that's just kind of like real life. And I think that a lot of people have a hard time relating to this image of everything's perfect, or even we know that everyone goes through hard times and trials in their life, but blah, blah, blah. I feel like a lot of times that's hard for people to relate to. Because a lot of the times it doesn't feel genuine. And not that anyone who says they're going through a hard time or you go through hard times is being genuine or not genuine, but it's kind of part of the Christian walk that a lot of people don't like to talk about, which is, where in the Bible does it say that you'll be promised smooth sailing comfort? And where does it say that you'll be promised to not go through trials, to not go through tribulations, to not go through struggles, to not go through hardships? I feel more of a lot of what the Bible speaks about those things in those situations is, in the midst of your trials, in the midst of being hated, in the midst of the valleys, in the midst of the hardships, you'll have an eternal focus, so it's not the only thing weighing over you. You'll have a way to find hope and a way to get out of it instead of just going through it by yourself like you would before. And so I think it also shines something true to the fact that we as like Western American Christians kind of look at this life as, why would God allow me to go through like a hardship instead of, why would God allow me to go through a hardship? Or when we go through something hard, are we right there to question, is God even real? Or if he is, then why would he do something like this? But what I ended up realizing through this season and through this period of time is that God himself chose suffering as the means to relate to us. Because he didn't relate to us through comfort. He didn't relate to us through ease of life. The means in which he chose so that man could relate to the divine was through suffering. And so I feel a lot of times as Christians, we lose sight of what's important, and we lose sight of the way that we should be in the midst of suffering, because we don't put suffering on the level as a relation to the divine. We don't put or use or think of suffering as this is what God himself chose to do and how he chose to go through things in this life to make it so that he can relate to us. And so I think, just starting it out before we really get into it of Thanksgiving is if we could switch our perspective of suffering and hardships and tough seasons to this is a thing and the means at which the God of the universe chose to relate to us, it might change our perspective a little bit on what suffering is, because suffering in and of itself without God is bad, but suffering with God is how we relate to God and how he chose to relate to us. And so I think just that little perspective shift, especially for our culture, that thinks of anything but me feeling good always is wrong, is a healthy perspective shift for Christians.
Yeah, I think that it can be really difficult because what you were saying before, I actually disagree with a little bit about when you were saying when people admit that they're like going through something, it's not always relatable. But I actually think the opposite is true. I think what you said is true in a sense. I think that we trick ourselves into thinking it should always be perfect all the time. Like everything should always be perfect. So then I think when things do go bad, it's like, whoa, like what is happening? But kind of like you're saying, that is more reality instead of everything being perfect all the time.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I think that what I said was sometimes people don't relate to the people who never share their hardships in life. And sometimes people don't relate to the people who just go, everyone has problems, but like never share seasons of problems they have. Like it just seems a little disingenuous for like maybe a pastor to get up and be like, I know everyone goes through hardships, but Jesus. And then they're like, okay, well, my mom just died. And you don't share that. That's more what I meant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that.
Thanks for bringing that up.
I think that will help everybody understand a little bit better. But yeah, I think especially with social media nowadays, I know I find myself in that spot a lot. And I think that's even relatable to like what we're going through right now, where we don't actually know like if what we're going through is that bad. We're both only 21, so we've only lived for so long, and yes, this is probably the hardest season that we've gone through so far, but that's not to say that we won't experience harder things as we grow older. I think that a lot of times people only share like, oh, I got married to my high school sweetheart when we were 18 years old, and oh, I bought my first house when I was 23 or whatever, And I think that is really unrealistic nowadays. And I think it should be more normalized to not have your life together. And that would kind of help people not feel so down in the dumps when things go not the way that they had planned.
Yeah, because I'm also fighting this in this season, because a lot of it revolves around, like, what am I actually going to do? Because the reality, I think, is true of what you said, where, you have a picture in mind of what you ask for when you pray to God. And then when he gives you a taste of what that reality looks like, we go, why am I going through this? And what you don't understand is the reality of what you asked for requires certain things to be manifested within you. So what I mean is, God, I want to be a professional sports player. Okay. What you're thinking of when you say that is the fame. You're thinking of being on TV. You're thinking of the salary. You're thinking of, I get to play football for my entire life. But what you don't know is the 7 days a week that they're in the gym. After the gym, making sure they don't cheat on their diet whatsoever so they can be the highest performing they can be. So giving up any satisfaction of food. After the gym, after the diet, going and watching film for 14 hours. And then on one day, and then another day, after the gym, after a diet, practicing with their team in season and out of season, filling up their entire life, which means you don't get an actual relationship with your family. You don't get an actual relationship with your wife. You don't get an actual relationship with your kids. So yes, you have the money, you have the fame, you have the ability to play something like football or basketball or whatever for a job. But what that gives up is any luxury in food, any luxury of free time, any luxury of relationships or a family. And so you pray and you ask God, help this dream become true. Then all of a sudden he starts removing things from your life, giving you a taste of what that reality looks like. And we're right there going, where's God? Why would God do this? If God's good, why would he allow this to happen? Don't you know that those hardships and those things that you're facing because he's giving you a taste of what you asked for? And I think that that's something that I realized through this season is, you know, like you said, we're only 21. And as a 21-year-old couple, and me, myself, as a 21-year-old guy, I say, okay, God, give me a life of ministry. I want to do ministry for a career. Now, what I have in mind is when I'm settled in the church in a steady congregation and I'm pastoring and leading or shepherding or whatever, or the preset high school or college ministry where we're reaching kids, or a thriving podcast where we're getting asked to do conferences and we're going around and being able to make a living off of that, and that opens up more doors for X, Y, and Z. That's actually what I'm praying for. I'm not praying for a life of ministry when I say, God, please allow me to have a life of ministry. Because a life of ministry looks, at a job that you've been working at, everything's going to fall apart because you've claimed to be a Christian and your faith is more of a witness when things aren't going well and everyone's looking at you than when everything's smooth sailing and everyone's looking at you. Because I've realized, a life of ministry is always easy when your life's easy. Being able to go around at your job and say, I'm a Christian, is easy when your family's doing well, when your social standing's doing well, when your job's steady. But then as soon as any single one of those things fall apart, do you still have the same attitude at work? Do you still communicate and speak to people the same way? Do you still have the same joy that you have, that you claim to have? Or do you come in miserable? Do you come in angry? Do you come in upset? Do you come in with an attitude? Do you come in snapping at people? The second something that was going nice and well and easy in your life. And I think that may be a reason for, I guess you could say, the season that I'm in. Because to be transparent, I continually, ever since high school, ask God to give me or allow for me to have a life of ministry or in ministry. And transparently, what I meant by that was be able to support a family while doing work for God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I realized he'd take that answer very seriously. And I think I'm logically and maybe spiritually able to understand that. But then comes the battle of the flesh, where the Bible says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And I don't realize that as I'm going through the storms, I could have all the head knowledge, I could have all the Bible stories. And you can hear all stories from all different people. But the second that it comes to test yourself, when it comes for you to go through the test, head knowledge means nothing. Knowing stories and anecdotes and history means nothing. I think the best example that I could give is if we could have the history of how the Roman Empire fell, but when it comes time for us and the leaders of the government who know the history to make the different decisions that would have allowed Rome not to fall, it doesn't matter if they knew how Rome fell. If when it comes time for them to stand up and make a choice this way or that way, so they're not doing what they know, if they don't do that, their knowledge meant nothing. It had zero relevancy of anything. And so I could know if Peter kept his eyes on Jesus during the storm, he wouldn't have sunk. But if I'm in a storm and I don't keep my eyes on Jesus, then knowing that story meant nothing. And I think to wrap this all up, from my perspective, it all ties into faith, because knowing the story so you can have the knowledge when the tough season comes is the precursor to having the faith to do something different of what the moral of the story was trying to teach. And what I mean by that, to put it into simpler terms, is if I knew all Peter had to do was keep his eyes focused on Jesus, even when the storms were rising around him, the reason why he didn't was because of lack of faith. The thing that truly broke Jesus' heart around Lazarus was that all the people around knew who they were around when they were with Jesus, and yet none had faith that he could heal. And we heard a sermon about the friends who helped the paralyzed friend get before Jesus. And after he forgave his sins, what did he say? He said, "Get up and walk." Doesn't that person in the moment have every right to go, "Don't you know for the last 35 years I haven't been able to move my body?" And yet it was by the faith of the person, the faith to tear the roof off, the faith to, in the midst of this person not truly knowing if it was going to work or not, because there was probably people that asked Jesus to be healed that he didn't heal. There was probably people in lines when he was just doing miracles who he didn't heal. So he probably had a seed of doubt. Could have had a seed of doubt of, this couldn't work. This might not work. But instead, their friends tore the roof off and dropped him in front of a man who said, "I forgive your sins. Get up and walk." But the paralytic said, "I have so much faith in the words and the truth that this is the Messiah, that he got up and walked. It was the woman who just thought, if I don't even have to speak to him, I don't even have to talk to him, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, the tassel, I'll be healed. And did Jesus go, it was because you got in my presence? Did Jesus go, it was because you touched something that was close to me? No. He got down and he said, woman, it was by your faith that you were healed. And so, long story short, I say all of this to say this one thing. Your faith is not true until it's tested. You can't say that you have faith in God if that faith was never tested. And the reason why I say that is because faith is only proven to be true when it goes up against something. Like, for example, I like to come back to this analogy until I find a better one, but especially for an example like this, but you would not believe if I said I believed in the safety of seatbelts if you didn't see me wearing a seatbelt. Like, you can't just say, I have faith and I have trust and I X, Y, and Z in God. And you can't pray to that God. And when that God answers and it doesn't look like what you want it to look like, you can't then go and doubt him and be mad at him and then claim that you have faith. And I think that this is what God is teaching me in the season that I'm in right now is, 1, your faith means nothing unless it's tested. 2, when things get hard, when things get hard, what comes out of your mouth holds no weight. When things get hard, do you still live up to what you had professed with your mouth before? When your life is smooth sailing and you say X, Y, and Z, but when things get hard, do you live up to and do you still do with the same joy and the same praising the God that you claim to serve? When things get hard, do you do that? And then 3, we have to be careful about what we pray for. Now, I believe God in his divine mercy knows. Just like a kid who's 4 years old, if you're a father or a mother and you have a 4-year-old kid and your kid asks you for a Lambo, let's say a Toyota Corolla, because a Lambo most people will never be able to afford, but a Toyota Corolla 2003 one for $4,000, most people could, after a little bit, afford that. Would you give it to that kid? No. You wouldn't give your 4-year-old kid a car even if he asked for it. So I believe God in his divine mercy knows what we can and can't handle. But also what I mean by be intentional about your prayer and careful about your prayer is make sure you know what you're truly praying for. Because like I said before, a lot of times I was praying for the outcome, not the process to become the person I needed to be to have the outcome.
I was actually just going to kind of mention something about that. I liked what you said about, like, obviously you wouldn't buy a 4-year-old a car, but I think that if, say, you have a son and he's, like, really, really into cars, I think that you would start preparing him to eventually be able to drive a car and like cars and, like, be into cars. So maybe that would start with, like, a Matchbox car of his dream model. And then maybe that looks like, you know, those, like, battery operated, like, little ones. Maybe that looks like something like that. Or maybe a remote control car. And then the battery operated one that he can actually drive. And eventually he would work his way up with his parents' guidance to when he was old enough to drive, then being able to have a car eventually, whether he was asked to work for the money himself and pay for the car himself, or whether that was gifted to him. Whatever the case be, I think that there would be some like training up into that. And so I think the same goes for us with God. So like you saying you want to do ministry, even though you've grown up in the church, I think God still is preparing you in the same way that you wouldn't give a 4-year-old a car. I think to God, he's like, well, I can't just like make you a pastor tomorrow, even though that's so frustrating because you've had those experiences. You've been able to preach a few times at church and you have a whole plethora of wisdom and knowledge. And so to us, it doesn't make sense. But I think to God, there's a much bigger picture. And so for us, we're seeing like this broad little part of it. But for him, he's like, hold on, like, would you just be patient for 5 minutes? Because what he's doing now is going to prepare you for something so much bigger in the future that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, remember that time when I was so mad that I had to do that? Or so frustrated thinking, this isn't what I wanted to do. And you're going to be like, this directly, what I'm doing now, I could not do without that. That directly ties to what I'm now able to do.
And I even think the desired outcome that I was praying for, what I didn't understand it, I'm still kind of formulating and putting together, as I'm reflecting, but the desired outcome in and of itself, for example, one of my favorite pastors, Philip Anthony Mitchell, was on a podcast talking about how him and his wife have kind of, since they've blown up, not left the season of suffering. And so I even think the thought of, because I completely agree with what you said, and I think the thought of this is just a season to grow. Mm-hmm. You used a word that I like a lot to describe this. What growth implies, for example, if you go to the gym, in order to build muscle, you have to break it down. Mm-hmm. But in order to maintain the muscle is a lot easier than the process of building the muscle. And so if you relate that to spiritual growth, you use the word endurance. Mm-hmm. And the Bible uses the word long suffering. I don't know where we got patience from, but I like the word long suffering a lot more. Because I think he's kind of being like, well, like you said, which is always a tough reality to admit, but I believe humility is also the chief principle that Christ himself showed us. Mm-hmm. You weren't the person that you needed to be to succeed. A loving father would not give their kid a car, but would teach their kid the steps he needs in order to one day drive a car, mm-hmm. like you said. An unloving father would just allow the kid to have a car. That's a caveat I want to add because, God would look down and go, you're not the man you need to be to even operate successfully in the outcome that you were praying for. And B, the season of suffering, long suffering that you're going through, but you're going through in a way that you can handle, is showing you what the type of person And I think it all comes down to the mind and the perspective of what you're going through. It's him teaching me that in order to be the type of man that you need to be to successfully operate in the outcome that you're praying for, you need to know what it looks like to feel this feeling and still turn to me, still be dependent on me, because your entire career that you're praying for and the outcome you're asking for is going to significantly feel like this. Mostly, it's going to feel like this. And so if you can't go through this little bit that I'm giving you, it kind of goes into that idea of, I entrust you with a little. Oh, you failed. Okay. No. Knock you down a little bit so that the next thing I entrust you with is even smaller. Oh, you failed that too? You can't even take that also? Knock you down even more so that the thing that I give you to entrust you with is even smaller. The thing I entrust you with is even smaller. And then finally, knock down, you can deal with that. So then you go to the next level. Can I trust you with this? Oh, you can. Can I trust you here? Nope. Knock you back down here. But then you pick up on a pattern. The trials that you go through in life are placed there by God. Because we always think this, the devil's attacking me. God's answering your prayer. And so I think, okay, switch my perspective to look at how are you dealing with the suffering you're going through? How are you dealing with the thing I'm entrusting you with? Can you deal with it properly? You're ready for the next level. And it's like that saying, different level, different devil.
I've never heard that before.
And it's kind of the idea, though, of the next level that you get onto leads to something sweet. Because speaking of, this is a segment here, potential sponsor, Joyride. And in fact, actually, Hannah, why don't you give your thoughts on Joyride for this?
Okay.
I don't know if you're in the frame.
Yeah, she is. The little squirrel guy is in the frame, so you're in the frame.
Okay, Joyride. It's very good. It's an uncommon candy. 4 grams of sugar. I think you guys should have it.
Cool.
Ryan, please sponsor. Tag him in the comments, everybody.
There you go.
Thank you, Hanny.
Thank you, Hannah. That's my sister. So I don't know if you guys heard that marketing team at Joyride, but Joyride, it's good. Should be your slogan. Is that what she said?
I think so. But also, I just want to say that this is us being like so genuine with you guys, because we were just chilling in the living room and we were like, oh, we were supposed to film our podcast today, but we're kind of like not really in the mood to do it. And then we were like, no, we can't be down like that. So we came down here and then we were like, what can we do to be silly for the episode?
Exactly.
And so that's us trying to pep things up a little bit.
Because in heart, although this episode has been largely serious, I think very important though, we're very silly people.
We are.
Anyone who's, if you're watching this and you haven't known us personally, anyone who knows us personally knows it's only a very sect amount of allotted time that we're serious before something silly.
It's usually hard for us to be serious.
We're either fighting.
That's so bad.
Like arguing or having a serious conversation. And then like after a little bit, we can't handle that. And we're like, we have to do something funny. Yeah. We have to, whether it's playing a board game, whether it's X, Y, or Z, we can't do it. So anyways, with that said, I mean, I think that was a good segment. I know I joked about something sweet's on the other side, but the truth is different level, different devil. It just means the next level that you go up, the next test that God gives you is going to be harder. Just like you have to increase weight, or else you're just maintaining. You're not building any new sustenance, right? You're not building any new muscle. And that's why I think working out, has been a good way for me to understand it. And I think maybe why God has made it something so passionate to me is because I don't know if I'd be able to have the perspective I do if I didn't know such intricate details about fitness and working out, because the way that you have to strategically increase the load over time. But what that means is every time you go and work out, if it doesn't feel harder than the time before, then you're not going to make progress. You're not going to make the gains that people talk about. And so to add the new tissue to build onto your body, you have to stress it even more. The actual scientific term is stress. You have to place stress on your skeletal system so that your bones become more dense, so that it can support the muscle that gets teared down every time you add more stress to the muscle. But then what ends up happening is after that muscle gets torn, you rest. And after you rest for a period of about 48 to 72 hours, you go and do it again. And then it gets torn. And then you rest. And I think applying that perspective, and hopefully that helps a lot of you to just surmise everything we're saying, but applying that perspective to spiritual growth, every time you need to grow spiritually, or caveat, God needs you to grow spiritually to give you the thing that you're asking for. Like, just think about that. He's just trying to give us what we're asking for. You're as a parent, you want to give your kid the car, but he'll kill himself or herself if you give him the car. So you help him get there. But in order to do that, there needs to be stress. There needs to be tearing down. But once you tear down, it builds better than it was before. And I think that is in and of itself the process of sanctification. I think that is in and of itself the process of growing up and maturing. Maturing is realizing that maturing is just getting broken down so you can get built up stronger. But doing that with a loving Father and a loving God, just like a coach, a father who will put stress on his son so that his son can perform in the basketball game or the football game, behind the scenes when no one's looking, at home, helping him, the loving Father would hear, Dad, I want to be on varsity. And he'll go, okay, wake up at 6:30 tomorrow and meet me in the gym. We're going to do drills. But Dad, I want to sleep in. But Dad, okay, then you don't want to be on varsity. And so I've talked a lot, but that's just where I'm at right now. And I think I almost needed to get it out.
Yeah, that's why I kind of just let you talk. I think this episode might be more for you, like you talking to yourself.
Yes. Than
you giving other people advice. But I think it also can help a lot of other people going through a similar season, because something that has been, I think, something that I'm extremely grateful for. I know we were planning to talk about gratitude and thankfulness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
that's how I wanted to end it. So
we'll tie that in here. But something that I'm really grateful for is that a lot of people in our community are also going through similar seasons, whether that be waiting seasons or the exact same thing that we are dealing with, because I'm also going through a similar season to what Vinny was just explaining. But we've been given a community by God to build each other up and to stretch us and grow us and help to refine us. And I think that's something that we often look past. I didn't even tell you this, but I was having a conversation with one of our friends the other night about this exact thing, and how it's pretty cool that God takes us as we are from the minute that we're knit together in our mother's womb, and he has this whole plan for us, and he perfectly timed all of us to be in the same place together so that we would be there for each other, to build each other up, and also to share encouragements, but also kind of to feel all the feelings together, and to just kind of be a shoulder for each other, I guess is the best way for me to describe it. Because I honestly do think it's really funny of God, because our whole friend group is pretty much in the same scenario right now. Maybe a couple people aren't, but I think they are dealing with a different waiting season than we are. So we're all in waiting seasons together. And that has also been really helpful. So if you feel like you're in a waiting season as well, I would highly encourage you to reach out to community, because there definitely are people around you that are going through a very similar season. And I know that you and the other people around you could definitely bounce ideas off each other. And honestly, just like the amount of spiritual growth that we've all had as a friend group, building each other up and saying like, oh, hey, I just thought of this the other day. And then being able to kind of get ideas thrown back at you about what God may be teaching you or be telling you during that time. It's super important and super helpful.
Yeah, and I even think that, one thing that you said about if this other person isn't necessarily going through it right now either, but blah, 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 blah. Even the people in your life, if you're going through the season that seems like they're kind of chilling or smooth sailing, at one point or another, in order to get there, went through the same thing. And so what I mean is, for example, like my brother started working at a job and is getting promoted and is like making a really good salary and is going to be able to pay off his student loans. And it looks like, oh, why is he succeeding and excelling and blah, 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 blah. But he went through 4 years? 4 years at an institute that he, ruining all connections with this place if they know, but that he absolutely hated. He did not feel like it was what he was passionate about. He did not feel like it was what he wanted to do. There was times where he was literally doing hours of homework when I was online with my friends. When I was in the season of chilling, I was cruising, having fun. He's going through that. And so now I think it's funny the way that our ages kind of line up too. But now that he went through all of that and he was faithful through all that, he still went to church and drummed every Sunday. He never was like, you know what, this stinks right now. I'm stressed and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to tell these people that I'm taking 3 months off of helping out at church because I'm stressed. No, he was faithful. He showed up. He did his devotional every day without fail. That's all the stuff that no one sees. But then what they do see is the promotion and the job. And they go, why is he excelling? Why is he succeeding? But I'm blah, 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 blah. And what you don't realize is whether it's on the front end or the back end, God has to grow you. Yeah. And like I just told you with Jim, it doesn't come without tears. It doesn't come without pain. It doesn't come without stress. And so even if you are going through that waiting season or that growing season or that hard season, and I'm talking, it can look like really bad. Like it can look like 60 years in prison is the thing that God gave you, because that's what you need to be humble enough to turn to him. That can be a growing season. Or it could be something like job and the boat is falling away and you're like, what's going on? But whether it's the front end or the back end, every single person in your life that you do see has gone through that to be the person they need to be to operate and where they are. Sorry. What I wanted to tie that into, though, is there's 2 different people you can be. There's 2 different people you can be. The one that no matter where they are always is able to find the thing that's wrong with the situation, or the one that no matter where they are is the one who's able to find what's right in the situation. So all before what I was telling you guys was kind of like what Stevie said, semi-outward processing and reflecting on my own experience right now, but also trying to give you the spiritual help and guidebook to work through these situations properly. But thirdly, my tonality and explanation through all of that, I don't want this to get lost on you guys. I am very, very grateful for the things that God has given me in this season. And this is what I wanted to tie it into. I wanted to tie it into, we weren't really ever going to do should Christians celebrate Thanksgiving or not. We were more going to do, because there was probably some shady things between Americans and Indians. Yeah, there was probably some shady things but Thanksgiving, we should participate not just once a year. Yes, it's beautiful. Gathering together with your family, people you agree with, disagree with, haven't talked to, have talked to all the time, and sharing a meal. That is more like church than anything. Especially if you have it centered around prayer and the gospel and the Bible, that's more like church than Sunday morning itself. And so, yes, Christians should celebrate, A, the act of giving thanks, always, not just once a year, and B, should use this opportunity to not think, am I celebrating the roots? Because, the roots of what Thanksgiving is not the thing we're celebrating. We're celebrating what it could be. And so where it differs with something like Halloween, the roots are bad, but if Halloween was like, we're turning it into celebrate God and patience. What if it was Patience Day? It got turned into Long-Suffering Day. Of course, we should celebrate it because that's a fruit of the Spirit and of God. But what it celebrates and promotes is all things not of God. But this, although the roots may be here or there, it could be a beautiful celebration of the Europeans and the Indians and the Pilgrims. Or it could be the Pilgrims screwing the Indians. But what we're celebrating is that of the things of God, which is the practice of giving thanks. And so that's kind of where I wanted to tie it into. And the situation that I'm in, I'll share something today. Just stupid stuff that just one thing after another keeps happening. But in the midst of it, I have a girlfriend who says to me, let's start our devotionals again. I have a girlfriend who says to me, let's be extra intentional about centering our relationship on God. I have a mother who will text me, and sometimes it's a lot and sometimes it's just enough for me to handle, but will tell me these are the things that you can actually do better. Which, by the way, if you don't have that person in your life, you're failing. Because if you only have the people who go, it's okay, I'm there for you and blah, 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 but you never have the person, even if it's just one thing. Now, the timing can be better than when you're down telling you what you can do right and what you can do better. But if you have that person in your life who goes, although you're feeling these feelings and the situation is rough, this is how you can be better next time. This is what you can do to be better. That's something I'm grateful for. That's something I'm thankful for. And so I have the support. I have the criticism, the constructive criticism. And then, like Stevie said, I have the friend group that I know would encourage me. The other day, we were at a worship concert that I was blessed to be in. And just another thing in my own personal church life, hard things that I'm going through, and a friend who has hung out like 3 times and barely been introduced into our friend group, so genuine enough to see that I'm struggling and hear me struggling and say, let's pray. So I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful for that. All of the things that God has given to me to go through in these seasons. And so I don't want it to get lost on you guys. The lessons and the things that I'm saying and the tone that I might be communicating it in seems like I'm down. But deep down from my heart, truly, I'm just trying to wrap my spirit that knows all of the things that I'm grateful for and all of the things that I'm thankful for around my flesh, forcing it to come under my spirit, the Holy Spirit that lives inside of me, to say, this is truly how I feel. But my flesh is fighting and trying to take control. And so the process of having my spirit overcome the flesh looks like carrying a cross. The way that God puts it is pick up your crosses daily and deny your flesh. And carrying that burden and that weight is something I couldn't do if I didn't have all of this. When God says, give me your burden, all of you who are heavy laden, and you'll find rest, for my yoke is light. His yoke looks like a community of people. His yoke looks like wonderful relationships that are there to support you. His yoke looks like all of these things. And so I don't want you guys to get to the temptation of my flesh, which is hypercynicism. None of this matters. It's just a joke, X, Y, and Z. All of the things that you can look at to complain at. I don't want you guys to get stuck in that trap. I want you to force your mind through the renewing of your mind, not transforming and conforming to the patterns of this world. Take that mind that's trying to fight against your spirit and pick up your cross so that your mind is conformed to the spirit instead of your spirit being conformed to the world. And the last analogy I have for this is I saw this animated video of all these people, 3 people animated, who were carrying crosses. And they were all tired. It was hard. It wasn't an easy thing to do. And the person in the middle goes, Lord, please, just please, cut some of this cross off so it's lighter. Please, God, cut some of this cross off so that it's easier on my shoulders, so it's lighter for me to carry. So what does God do? He takes some of the cross off and makes it lighter to carry. Then you see him go forward. You see him leave the other 2 people behind. Then all of a sudden, they come to this crossroad on the land that they were traveling in. There's a little bit of a cavern that they have to cross. No pun intended there. There's a little bit of the cavern that they have to cross. You know what he realized? The cross that God cut down to make lighter so it's easier for me to carry is now too short for me to lay across the cavern so I can walk over it. And then the 2 people catch up to him, and their cross is long enough. The cross that they've been carrying, the cross that has caused denial of the flesh that was harder, was long enough for them to lay over the cavern. And so you might not know that when you're praying for God to do X, Y, and Z, he's developing that cross within you, the proverbial cross, that's long enough for you to be able to overcome the thing in front of you you don't even know is there. And so when you pray and you ask God, do that, and when he's doing it and you ask him to stop, you ask him, why are you doing it? Just keep in mind, he's looking at you in this season, asking you, will you still praise me? Are you still being faithful? And are you still grateful for everything that I give you? And so don't be discouraged. Don't be downcast. Don't be heavy laden. Don't focus on negativity. Wrap your mind around the Spirit, which is willing, so that you can focus on praising God, being grateful for all the things that I mentioned, all the things in the season that I have to be grateful for. That's what he wants you to do, and that's how you're able to create a new perspective on suffering, but also to overcome the hardships that will grow you to be the person you need to be to get the thing you ask God for.
I think that's all very good. I do have a question for you, though. It's not about what you said. It's my question that I'm supposed to ask you at the end of the episode.
You see, this is the problem. There's a very... It's almost like split personalities. Where... Okay, this is funny. Okay, let's go into this real quick. So, Stevie has probably seen this, but...
Oh.
She has the version of me when she goes... It's like a split personality. She goes, Vinny, I have a question and I need some advice. All of a sudden, the spiritual trying to give advice Vinny, super serious, super straight to the point. Like there will be times where she's like, I have a question on blah, 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 and ask for advice. And then I give her like a 3-hour history lesson on all these events that happen in the world, and then a 2-hour lesson on how that ties to the Bible, and then all of that 5 hours to answer the one little thing, but just to make sure she got all of the best advice she could get. It's all, and so that was the version that you guys just had. That's like 30% of the time when I'm really focused. 70% of the time is silly, everything's a joke version of Vinny. So I had to tell that story to get into that version. Let's go. What was your question? I'm in the silly joke
I didn't
version.
mean to do that to you, but that was just like all really heavy. So
Yes.
I was like, we'll just make it a little bit more lighthearted, you know?
I was expecting her to be like, I have a question. What's the number one lesson that you've learned through these hardships? And she's like, I have a question. What's your favorite color? Sorry. All right.
Maybe that first question will be for another episode, but not today.
All right.
But my question was, what food are you most excited to eat at Thanksgiving? I think I know your answer. Wait, can I guess it for you?
If anyone guessed turkey, I'll slap them with the turkey. A wet turkey.
Stop.
I'll literally slap you with a wet turkey.
Stop it. Okay.
What's wrong?
Can I guess yours? I think I know what you're going to say. Do you want to guess mine or do you not know?
I wish I could like write it down. I'll just ask the same question because my brain is fried from trying to be Jordan Peterson. So I'm just kidding. That's a cut. We're cutting that part of it.
No, it has to stay in.
So no, but my brain does really get tired after actually like being serious.
Yeah.
So I'll ask the same question for you, but I wish I could write it down so people know if I'm like...
You don't have your phone. Is there any paper down
Okay,
here?
just guess. I think yours is... No, you go first.
Yours is definitely creamed corn, and I think that's disgusting. It grosses me out and gives me the ick, but it's okay.
Fun history fact for you guys. The manna from heaven...
Don't even say it was creamed corn.
...that God gave to the Israelites... That was so good that he was like, yo, if you stack up on any of this, I'll rot it out with, like, maggots. Was cream corn.
It was not. That's disgusting.
Is that blasphemous?
Yes, that is blasphemous.
Or is it sacrilegious?
Both.
I thought of a joke, and I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, probably don't.
So,
all right.
Creamed corn was correct. Is yours? She's getting a call from her mother. Is yours? Yours is... Okay, this is a problem.
You're not going to guess it.
Buns. No.
Well, partially.
Marshmallow sweet potato casserole.
No.
Stuffing.
No.
Wet turkey.
Stop. It's mashed potatoes and rolls.
Ding.
I like the rolls too.
She's on a strictly carb-only diet.
No, turkey, I don't really love turkey.
I know turkey. We both agree the main meat of Thanksgiving should be...
Brisket.
If they switch brisket to be the main meat instead of turkey, man, I would not want to be slapping no one with a wet brisket because it would be in my mouth. Yes, a wet brisket would be in my mouth and not on your face. So with that being said, that's episode 7, everybody. We're going to close it out there. Pick up your half-eating joyride from Target so Ryan Trahan will never sponsor us.
It fell out.
There's a wet cherry berry rope. It's not even cherry berry. Yeah, it is. All right.
Stop.
We're going to end it there. I'm back to my normal self. We love you all. This Dyson heater's
Have
been
a great
on 99.
Thanksgiving.
Have a great Thanksgiving. Bring up politics. Bring up conspiracy
Vinny.
theories. Cause family fights that don't get healed until next year's Thanksgiving. And on that note,
Stop.
this is for the... There we go. It's coping. It's okay, I already ended it.
Wait, I want to see the beginning of this video.
All right, stop.
Go heat up the steak.
Wait.
There's plastic already, girl. Vinny, how do you turn the heater off? Just unplug it?
It's the remote.